Hi, collective. I hope you've been looking good, feeling good, smelling good, eating good, drinking good, thinking good thoughts, having a good time, sharing good energy with good people in good places, doing good things. I think I'm going to start out with this is the Garbage Pail Kids deck. All right. Right on the bottom, 10 of Pentacles. Ooh. This is a lovely giving situation. Yeah. I feel like it's not just like, it's like someone maybe sees you, because you see how this person is like, this is a masculine energy in a like a little rocking chair or whatever, but then you see further in the back it's two little girls, which I believe is like maybe you and your higher self. So someone's seeing how much you have tuned into your inner child, how much you've healed your inner child, and how much you know about that. Interesting. All right. Yeah, nothing keeps you up at night. Wow. Okay, this is pretty interesting. So it's a death card reversed. And because I'm taking off of what just came out initially. So, because I didn't do any pre-shuffles or anything, but what I'm getting is that you're so in tune with what your inner child needed and what your inner child knew or knows. And it's like your highest self is your inner child too, from where I'm sitting. So there may be also something kind of connecting you and a person with respect to maybe the first time this person even like saw you, the first time you ever came into their view or vantage point. You were maybe either talking or had talked to someone or discussed or posted something about inner child work. Okay, I guess I'm supposed to dig into that because I know that there was yeah, maybe someone saw you working hard. Like, so maybe I'm getting this is the person that saw you, somebody who's also, an upstanding person who has been working on themselves as well, saw you, working hard on that yourself. Maybe there was a misinterpretation. Maybe this person thought like, I don't know, you know how sometimes people can see other people's posts, or, maybe you even tagged this person in a post or something like that. And this person maybe felt like it was like a jab at them, but in reality, it was like you're sharing with them that you saw that they were on the same path. Now, interestingly enough, I tend to post on my Instagram. And on my Instagram, I'll also post and I'll put up highlights, right, of like moments. And what's funny to me is that when I started this journey, I had just met a false twin that I really wasn't understanding was a false twin, but I just didn't like this person's energy and like how they got down. And what I noticed is that immediately upon feeling as though I was losing that person that was a false twin, right? I started to go on this like mission, this hardcore mission to like really heal myself and just, the first thing I felt was like get rid of codependency. That's the first thing that I was working on. And so that was the start of my focus on my spiritual journey. Everybody starts at, there's levels to this. Healing is not linear. Everybody's not at the same stage. And in that moment, somebody has wanted me to say this. In that moment, I personally realized that, like I had acknowledged, like, it was kind of like God said, go ahead and make a wish. Like, what do you want? Or who do you want? And I had noticed that someone that I admired, someone that I thought highly of, was just recently out of their relationship. And I was like, I want that one. I want that one. And I felt like I was, dreaming big as we're supposed to do, which I learned later. So it's like maybe 6 months to a year before I really started to strongly manifest this person was when I was going through this. Now, back to the highlights on Instagram. I ran into a highlight that I had posted, an older one, and I was going to the beach that day. And at the beach, I had, I always bring like a book and a notebook and my speaker and, my big floppy thing to lay in and all that. But what I realized that day at the beach, which is March 26th, I want to say it was of 2022, in that very moment, I realized that I was actually manifesting the person that I had asked God for. Like, I'd written down all these things of what I wanted my person to be like and who I wanted his character to represent, which of course is like you want the person to represent you well and themselves, etc., etc. And I recently went back to through my like highlights. I often look at myself a lot. Like, if people think that I'm looking up other people on Instagram or social media or something like that, I don't. I'd be looking at my own posts. Like, I look back at all the stuff that I like posted and like just enjoy myself, I guess you could say. So I was looking and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the actual day that I realized that I was manifesting this person. And that's kind of when I decided, like, okay, I need to refine myself, so that may be something that you're acknowledging too. Like, I've always been manifesting this person, even if I didn't know that this was my person. I was manifesting things similar, whether it be, the person's, body shape, physique, or, the way they spoke, or, how they flip their hair. I don't know. Or how they wear their hair. It just depends, right? So what I see here in this, transformation card is what I'm being told to call it in reverse. It's like the transformation is over. The transformation process is complete. And I know I also feel like that too. I'm like, why isn't my person here yet? And I don't, try to get hung up on it, but I also feel like, what is it that I can help with is usually the thing, like as far as like their journey and what they're dealing with and what they're experiencing, or, what I need to communicate. Yeah. So that may be what you're going in with about right now, is kind of like, okay, is there anything more that really needs to be done except for this next part of the process? Because the transformation is complete. The transformation is done. What's also pretty fun to me too is that, okay, so when I started this whole journey, I was working at a mystical store doing readings in the store, okay? And I invited a few people, well, several people, to a workshop that he was having, and it was an inner child workshop. And I didn't know what to expect. I thought it was going to be a bunch of people crying about how sad their, childhood was. And yes, there was some of that. But in reality, it made me feel a lot more confident about who I was, because it wasn't as though I have felt like I received or, was victim to a bunch of abuse or things like that. Because whatever people do, I feel like they're doing it to themselves more so than anything, because there's a part of them within themselves, their inner child, who hasn't healed. And so then they take it out on other people. So that may be something that you're realizing too, is like, oh, okay, it's not really me, even though I take ownership for everything that, I've encountered and that I've done. But you start to realize at the core of you, that little baby wanted, everything that you desire right now today, right? Wow. The Justice card. Wow. And still that Hermit. Yeah. So going within helped me, and it's probably helping you too at this point, to realize like, okay, wait, this is justice. This is me receiving justice. This is me completing my healing work, my transformation, my evolvement, if you will, whatever you want to call it. This is great. This is really great. Yeah. Going within about like, and I don't want to make it seem like I feel like I'm a perfect person, because no one is perfect. Everybody has a past. Ooh, I didn't know this was going to come up, but I knew it was going to come up because it kept coming up in the downloads prior to. Okay. So one of the other things is, women, I call us like curious, nosy, if you will. My dog is the same way though, but, so quiet, but like when she's nosy, she's nosy. But, what I noticed is that, like, how do I put this? Okay, so if you search for things, you'll find them. And I was looking to find like something on my Divine Masculine, the one that I had realized I'm manifesting, and that like I asked God for him, and God saying, this is how you receive what you want. And I was comfortable, because I worked on codependency first, I was comfortable with the fact that even if it wasn't this person, the connection would help me along the way. But there were so many like moments of like, crying, uncontrollably, just being really grateful, for maybe even things that I was able to let go of, So what I'm seeing here is that, I was telling you about, so I was nosy. I'll just say this, you know, if you search long enough, even the squeakiest of cleanest people might have some freaky moments out there. And I'm not talking Diddy freaky, okay? I'm not talking like that. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is just like, you know, I don't post photos of me in my swimsuit. Like, that's very rare. I don't post photos of me in, like, you know, from behind, so to speak. I know it's there. If you see me walk past, you'll know it's there. You know, I don't feel like I have to do all of that because there's more to me. So that may be something that attracts you to the person that you're attracted to, is like, they don't have to do a lot and you don't have to do a lot, right? And that's probably something that's coming into play now too, is like, I keep thinking of Nicole Ari Parker and Boris Kodjoe and their love story. You know, again, he's a heartthrob, right? Like, still is, right? Just in the fact that, like, he's very attractive even as he's matured, and she's very glamorous and beautiful herself, right? And she has this refined pose to her. But there was this little short that I saw of somebody interviewing her, and she was talking about how, like, she was looking for houses, and he was like, oh cool, I'll come along. And he went along with her, and he said something to her, like, along the lines of, like, you know, if we bought the house together, we could get a bigger one. And then later he ended up, like, I guess, going out looking himself and sent her a photo of the home and said, this is our house. And I feel like this is the energy that you're moving into, like, learning and understanding and, like, really enjoying, you know, being in your masculine energy, or really enjoying being in your feminine energy. And it's going to be easy, right? Whereas if Nicole had looked at it like, this is such a difficult thing and I can't trust him, and how will I believe, you know, that all these women, because I mean, I'm sure she even knew women that were like goo goo gaga over him. I could just imagine that it's like there's this level of maturity and, you know, lack of codependency that exists that makes things work well. You know, it's like pieces to a puzzle. So where we've gotten so distorted as far as, like, people dating, and that people have made things complicated and hard and difficult, and the push and pull and stuff like that. It's like you're in an era or a phase or moment or period now where you're realizing, like, no, I deserve that. My inner child deserved that. My inner child deserved for me to be this adult, be at the place I am right now, and be able to either give the love, well, yes, definitely give the love, and receive the love just like that, without all these hangups from other relationships. And that's why I'm really super grateful, because, like, before I moved out to Cali, when I started looking for a place, I was looking for a place for me and my children. I have 3 children. And I happened upon one day just sitting there, like, and I found the perfect place. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly the place that we need to live in. And that is, like, I want to say that's the only regret, but I've learned that, like, you don't regret things. You just acknowledge what you didn't get right, and that leads you to a place of not having a regret. Like, as long as you're comfortable with the fact that you didn't make a right decision, and looking back at it and saying, well, how would that decision would have changed my life? If I had gotten that place, I feel like me and my divine masculine would have met very quickly. We would have gotten together, but I don't feel like we would have been the healed versions of ourselves that we are now. So back March 26, 2022, when I realized I was manifesting him, I already knew I wasn't where I needed to be. And that may be what you're realizing too, like, okay, I'm where I need to be right now in order to actually get in this relationship and, wow, get going, get in this relationship and speed up the process. And this is, I don't know why this is coming to me. You may find your person to be very attractive. That's what I'm getting from this King of Wands energy right now. Like, it's attractive that, like, this person cusses, but then, you know, knows when to tone it down or to bring it back, or, you know, knows when to dress it up and when to dress it down. That's something else that I saw too. I saw a short of, like, let's say there were 10 couples and they were each coming up and giving each other a kiss, and some overdid it, and some, you know, did it just perfectly for themselves, and then others, like, you know, were appropriate. But there was this thing where you could see the couples that had issues, like, at least I could. But that's the thing about you and your person. You've worked on yourselves. You've done the healing work. You've done the, you know, acknowledgement or looking at other options. That's something that came up too. Gosh, am I going to get any cards out? That's something that came up too is, like, recently I realized that, like, there are men that I'm attracted to. Not just my divine masculine, but there are going to be people that you're attracted to. They're going to be people that your person is attracted to as well. That doesn't mean they desire them. And if they took a moment to examine them, they'd realize how, they're not for them. For Divine Masculine specifically, that last reading that I did, I spoke about how the woman wasn't really attracted to you, but you may find that she's going to start doing things differently just based on the fact that you've acknowledged those things about her. Like, she may come up with like a bunch of self-help books that she's reading now, or she may not be posting as much anymore, whatever it is. She may be trying to reach out to you a little bit more, but that's because people automatically feel your distance. Just like if you're the type of person, Spirit says to be very on guard with that, like be your honest, innocent self, but be truthful with this person when they come like, oh, hey, I haven't heard from you. Like, yeah, not really feeling it. Like, it's okay to be clear and cut and dry. Just like, yeah, if you have to acknowledge that you're not, fully interested, so be it. It's better to tell the truth, right? That's also what makes you attractive as well, is the fact that you're not afraid to tell the truth. Like, yeah, I wasn't really feeling it anymore. It didn't seem like things were gelling, or you could just be the type to let it fizzle out, nothing wrong with that. And it's only someone else's codependency that needs to have a reason why, because they know what they've done. People know what they've done to be rejected from your energy. People know, when you have them in this energy. And that's the thing too. If you feel like you're the type of person that, that when you go walk in a room, your presence is felt even before getting in there. Like, people feel you before they even see you, kind of thing. And I know that that's true about me. And I've had other readers tell me that as well. Like, like, as soon as you walked in here, kind of thing. So that may be something that, most people couldn't handle that, which is why they might have even held you in the distance. Maybe this person that we're talking about that, is going to have all these self-help books and ain't going to be posting, booty shots or whatever. They're just not trying to be as seen as they were before. And it's an attempt to try to impress you, but that should have been where they were from the gate. It's an attempt to try to keep hold of you now that you've realized who they are. And that's a huge part of codependency. So be careful with that. Be honest and upfront and direct about like, hey, yeah, no, just not feeling it, or, keep it on, bring it down a notch. If you were really, kind of talking more about with this person about getting together with one another, bring it back, talk about work, talk about, the weather, change it, put them back in their friend zone. If this is someone who's been a friend all this time that you were attracted to, that you no longer have an interest in. But yeah, that's the funny thing too, is recently my ex tried to show up in a dream, or they showed up, but they cloaked themselves as my father. And so it was like, oh, I want to come show you something. And so, of course, your dad comes up in a dream. You're going to go along and want to go see what it is that they were trying to show you. I'm laughing already because this person thought that they were attracted to you. But it's like, if you were attracted to me, then you wouldn't have to do all of these things and like cloak yourself and like try to be someone else. Like, if you are not who, if the person is not who they need to be with you now, they're not your person. That's just the reality. Somebody can't change themselves into being you unless they've actually been already on that road. And it's like, oh, okay, I could be a little bit more romantic, or okay, I could be a little bit more, tidy, or whatever it is. But cloaked himself as my father to get me to go with them. And then I kept feeling this sexual energy, which felt off for me because I'm with my father. And I'm the type of person I've realized now, like when I'm in dreams, I'm mostly observing. And so for me to be called to interact, I was just kind of like, oh, okay. But I didn't really pick up on everything until we got to the father's house, right? And so there was like this big sofa that we were sitting on, and he sat here and turned into himself. I was sitting here. Now, prior to that, me like seeing my father, I was at some type of like, let's call it like a gymnasium or something. And I was there with my son, and my ex had showed up as himself at the gymnasium. And some woman came up to him and just started like calling him out. And I could see my son feeling uncomfortable by it. And so I stopped the woman. I was like, hey, you're not going to do this. And it wasn't to protect my ex, it was to protect my son, because sometimes, as children, we can feel like, for me, I really like what the gist of what I got was that my son was being embarrassed by who his father is as a person, and it was showing on his face, and I didn't want that to continue on, because I didn't want him to have any stigmas, because we are not our parents, right? We're not our parents. We've lived a different life. We were their children. We couldn't unless we were them, right? So that may be something else too, is someone's not trying to live up to like who their father was or who their father said they should be, or something like that, or mother or whatever. But I stopped the lady from kind of like, just saying whatever she was saying, because to me it's unnecessary. The truth always reveals itself, you know what I mean? And so I think it was like the fact that in the dream, my ex realized she's not protecting me, she's protecting her child. Duh. And so that's why after I left out of the gymnasium, he shows up as my father. And then we get over to this house, and I sit on the sofa here, and I'm thinking he's going to turn on the TV and show me something. He sits on the sofa here, I'm sitting on the sofa on this side, and we start to talk. And then all of a sudden, there's this roommate that comes out. And I was just kind of like, oh, hey. And I noticed, like, to me, it was like, I don't know how. And in reality, the roommate is my divine masculine. So the roommate comes out, and I was just kind of like, oh. And then I look back over at my father, and it's no longer my father, it's my ex. And I'm just like, oh. And in that moment, I realized I was in a dream, and I realized what he was trying to do. Which essentially is like, try to make me change my mind. Yeah. Trying to make me want to see, or like see if there was an opportunity. And it's like, no, because the new person is already present. For me, my new person and I have been in this connection, working on ourselves separately since March of 2022, as far as I'm concerned. That's again when I shut the purr down and all these different things. So it's inevitable that someone would feel like, okay, I've been waiting for this moment, and I'm not letting anybody come in between it. And that's what was essentially happening in the dream. This person, my ex, when the roommate came out, I realized, it was like, so that thing with the attraction, like I'm attracted to this person, but it wasn't like their physical appearance that I was attracted to. It was how they carried themselves. Okay. So it was like the way he walked into the room, the way he looked at me. And I noticed I didn't make eye contact, because I don't like a lot of people. So I don't look at a lot of people. Also because of my intuition, I could see right through you into your life. So that's another thing too, that maybe, kind of in the beginning might have made your person feel like, oh gosh, this person sees me. If you watch tarot card readings, like you're picking up on things and so on and so forth. But as really intuitive beings, we can see, the other person's depth, if you will, or lack thereof. And it was something about this roommate that when he came out, I was just kind of like, oh, am I here to see him? Like that's what I thought. And I didn't make eye contact, and I got like a telepathic message from this roommate saying, you didn't make eye contact. And so after that, I made eye contact, and then I looked back over, and there's my ex, and everything just changed. Everything just completely changed. Where at that point, my ex realized, and I don't know if you guys saw it, but the Three of Swords was in here. And my ex is like a sad puppy dog. Like he's in his room crying, and there's like tissue all over. And my new divine masculine, he's like sitting, he tells me to sit down. And so I sit down, and I can, like, from where I'm sitting down, I'm like at an island on a bar stool, and where I'm at, I can see my ex in the room, like crying and going through the motions. And I was just kind of like, what is this idiot doing? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, that was all I could think. And then it was almost like my ex started to come out of the room to try to say something to me, and my divine masculine looked at me, and of course we're in eye contact now, and I looked at him. He was like, come on. And I got up and we left, and it was it was the love. It was a love that could be felt. It's the love that's showing up, and that is something that I'm very focused on as well. It's like making sure that I'm in control of my circumstances, in control of my dreams, because my false twin showed up in a dream. And it was weird, because I remember this dream where we're standing in front of, like when you sign your name, and if you don't know, when you sign your paperwork to say you're married, you're both standing side by side at this paper, and, you kind of have to lean over a little bit to sign your name or whatever. But my false twin had shown up in a dream and took me to get married. Okay, that's how he created his attachment. And at the time, I was smoking marijuana quite a bit, so I wasn't fully seeing all of my dreams or understanding them. I wasn't awakened on all these other things either yet, so that played a part. But in that dream, I remember I didn't sign the paper. I was just watching him kind of like, what are we doing here? And he took my hand and did that. And that's what created this false marriage, if you will. And I understood it later. But then my new divine masculine, sometime between March and, maybe May, June, July, I don't know, sometime within, that spring to summer season, my new divine masculine and I started to connect in 2022. And we went ahead and we got married. We were both like, okay, but it was like a spiritual union. It was something that we wanted to do to develop our own character, and there was a moment when we're standing around and he's holding my hand and then I'm holding his hand. So he's on this other side of me, and people keep coming up trying to, talk to him. And I keep, we keep turning around and we go, no, we're married. We kept showing our hand. We're like, no, we're married. This is my husband and this is my wife. And it was like a lot of that. But that was way back then. And I didn't realize until later, like, oh gosh, I know he's a heartthrob, but goodness gracious. I know he's a heartthrob. And I think that's also what's being said too, is, even though people were leaving the atmosphere, the space, etc., it's what we called in. It's what we required. It's what we wanted. We were comfortable with removing ourselves from this energy, this like regretful energy. You see this person is like melting into all of these cups. I gotta go get my notes, because there's something about the fact that we don't have 5 senses, we have 15, and that's what makes us more divine than others. People say, you think you're better than us, but were Jesus's disciples all the same as regular people, or did he choose people? Okay, so that's why this cup is being given now, because we didn't wallow in this like that. Okay, let me go find my notes. Yeah, we went within instead of wallowing, and we found comfort in the connection. Even if it was just a spiritual connection, even if it was just, being proud internally of knowing that you have someone, and the fact that it manifested and became real. But let me get those notes really quick on that specific part of it, the 15 senses, because I feel like that's what you have been using more recently or throughout this whole journey to really develop your person, meaning yourself, and your person has been doing the same. And that's what sets you apart. That's why other people don't compare, and they don't get it because they're still working off of the 5 senses. It got deep when I started researching this. So let me go get my laptop really quick and I'll go over those notes. Okay, so I found this watching somebody, one of those people that put up like the craziest things and we're in the matrix and blah blah blah, but this person that said this, it was just like so prolific for me, and I was like, oh, that's something that the collective needs to know about too, or understand, to help them understand how they're so set apart as well. So you can always experience a lot of appealing and unappealing, because we're not going to say right and wrong or good and bad, because we don't even focus on that anymore. But appealing and not appealing, like the behavior of the people from your past is unappealing to you, right? And those are different things that happen within your senses and how you carry yourself, etc., that turn you off or make you not desire to be connected to them in any way. But anyway, so with respect to how that relates to senses, it's like a bad taste in your mouth, a bad smell, a good smell, something that tastes good to you, right? Something that smells good to you, something that looks good to you, things that someone who's not attractive to you visually, right? Good touch, bad touch. So it works in all of those five senses, the bodily senses, touch, taste, smell, and hearing. Hitting someone versus hugging someone, good touch, bad touch, right? It's not appealing to be hit. It is appealing to be hugged, depending on who it is. That's another thing too, because you can see Like recently, this thing with Tamar Braxton, when she went into that nightclub or the lounge or wherever she was at, that she had not a good night at. The first thing that I noticed was she was just giving out so much of her energy. She was hugging people that I believe were strangers, bottle girls and everybody. And I was just kind of like, oh, that's the first mistake. You're giving out too much energy. There's people that you don't know there. That's just my take on it. But he said something else. He said that where is it here? Oh, it's in my phone. He said that like the bodily senses are like the lower ones for the most part. Like that's the gist of it. It's that they're the lower part. I might go ahead and edit this video and just like put up what he actually said right here, so that you guys don't miss that, because it was really important, because I had to like Google more words and I was like, wait a minute, what's that word mean? And I'm a word of the day kind of person, so it still pops up on my phone, like the word of the day. I used to post it when I was a manager in corporate America. I would post the word of the day. My girlfriend, who was also a manager, would crack up and she was like, that's Tasha. But to me, I've remained the same person, just better, right? So some people pride themselves on being good in these senses. Like, I'm appealing to people, the way I touch people, it feels good, and blah, 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 blah. Now, as divine beings, when we are physically touching people, it feels good to them. It's never an off-putting feeling. The way we smell to people smells good. Sometimes even if you have like not put deodorant on, it can be really appealing to other people. It's meant to be that way. But when you manipulate it, when you use this to do things that are unappealing to people, that's where they get it mixed up, because these people use those senses that they were given and they're more, I want to remember this word so bad. They're more like, they're just lower. They're on a lower vibration. They're dogmatic. Oh, the notes are here. Okay. So you have 15 senses. Now you are a spirit and you live in a body that we call our soul. This like fleshy thing. That's the soul, right? People say, oh, I can feel it in my soul. That means to the deepest core and part of them, right? People say you got soul, think about it. It only happens here because once your spirit leaves, the body it returns. Now, bodily senses, touch, taste, smell, and hearing, those are limited in ability. They're very limited in their ability, okay? And that's why they're the weakest ones. That's why people try to manipulate them and use them. Like, oh, that person is attractive. She knows she's attractive. And, they use it to their advantage versus, just being authentic. He called them dogmatic. And that's the word that I had to look up, because I was like, I know I've heard the word before, but I've never really used it in a sentence. And I got to understand what I'm communicating. So dogmatic means inclined to lay down principles as incontrovertibly true, right? This person is attractive, but only physically. When you get to know them, they may not become as attractive as they were, right? Dogmatic people tend to only comprehend those four senses, okay? They only operate out of those. Okay, that's four. Because those are the only ones that they really know, and those are the only ones where they have influence in, all right? Now, incontrovertibly, because I was like, well, what's that mean? Like, dogmatic led me to incontrovertibly. I might be pronouncing it wrong, but I don't care. So, incontrovertibly, in a way that cannot be argued against. So, is this person attractive? Yes, right? But if you're only using and working out of those four senses, that holds true to you. If you don't know the other senses that you have, then this person is always going to be attractive to you because visually they're appealing, right? But it's something that's communicated in a way that cannot be argued against, denied, disputed, absolutely true, certain, and it implies something is undeniably proven or solvent. There's also a little point in here too, that about the double-edged sword, as well as someone who has been loud and wrong. And hear little, phrases and little, things all the time, but they don't always hit until it's like, that's loud and wrong. Because it doesn't necessarily mean that a person was talking loud. It's just that it was said in such a way that spread, right? And that can be considered loud. Someone who said something to so many people that it became loud, right? And that's the trouble that these other people have, is that they said so much about you outwardly, and it was so loud that now it's hard to retract it. It's hard to run away from, and that's how they're being seen as liars. It's like, if they hadn't talked so much about you and made it seem like it was incontrovertibly true, people wouldn't be looking at them like, oh, you're a liar, right? But anyway, so loud and wrong. These people, the people that are loud and wrong, haven't mastered the additional senses yet, okay? They get worked up in those feelings, of wanting to touch you again, wanting to taste you again, wanting to smell you again, wanting to see you again. They only operate in those senses, okay? Now, the other senses that we're going to talk about are your soul senses, right? It's your mind, right? Your will. So your mind is what you think, okay? And your will is your drive and your willpower to actually do things, right? Your motivation, the things that motivate you, that's your will, right? Your emotions are what you feel. Your affections are who you feel those things for. And your imagination is your ability to see it before you see it, right? So, which also could be considered manifestation, right? Because to me, I taught my children how to manifest. My daughter already knew, but I told my son, I was like, well, you could manifest yourself. And he's like, what? And I was like, well, could you see, like, imagine walking to the store from here. He could imagine that. That is him using his imagination to manifest something that he has the willpower. So again, the soul senses are the mind, the will, the emotions, affections, and imagination, okay? The mind is what you think. Your will is your drive and your power, the motivation to actually get up and do it. Your emotions are what you feel. Your affections are who you feel those things for, right? These are all your senses. And if you think about it, you use them, right? It's like, oh wait, those are my emotions. I mean, my senses. Like, you can sense when your affection changes towards someone based on the emotions that they've made you feel. Sad, hurt, happy, sad, all that good stuff, right? And your imagination is the ability to see it before you see it. I could see, like, I was imagining my divine masculine, and it's gotten stronger and stronger to the point of where I've been imagining, like, so many things, like, to the way he touches me and all these other things. And it's going to be great because if my imagination sees it this way, right? And that's also my emotions coming into play. And for him, right, my affection, the person who I feel those emotions for, right? And so those are things that these people haven't mastered, and that's why they can't control yours, right? They haven't mastered their soul. They haven't dug into their soul. They haven't done their shadow work. They haven't done that soul searching to see where they're misusing themselves, right? Because they're just on that surface level. Those more, what do we call them? Dogmatic. Okay. Now, the spiritual senses, because you're a soul and spirit, and that's where the double-edged sword comes in. Because I was like, didn't the Bible talk about a double-edged sword being able, like, it was like something was more powerful, and it was the word of God is more powerful than a double-edged sword because it could separate soul and spirit. And I was like, wait a minute. I could never understand that because I was always looking at them as the same thing, but they are not. This is my soul. The spirit lives within it. Okay, stick with me. Your spiritual senses are prayer, praise, worship, faith, and meditation. Okay, now prayer is when I pray or talk to God about my problems. Praise is when I talk to my problems about God. Okay, worship is when I'm giving God the glory and being thankful, being diligent, admiration, showing, how much you appreciate, like, God and how he's worked in your life. And faith is the medium that we use to get yourself to think and do things, right? Your faith. That's the medium that we use to get ourselves to think and do specific things. one of the things that's probably said a lot that you could equate to this is that the sustenance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Still working in that imagination section, right? Meditation is the last spiritual sense. And he says, so in the Bible it says to meditate, meditate on his law. There's a song from an old church, but it's meditate on the book of the law all day and night. So meditation just means to focus. The word meditation means to focus. So if you're someone who meditates or takes time to meditate, it doesn't have to be necessarily sitting like this. You could just be sitting with your cup of coffee, meditating on your divine person, right? And what it's going to be like to be with them, right? Now, these other people can't because they're still using those five senses, right? Those same, I'm sorry, I keep calling it five and it's four senses. They're still using those four senses. Those are the only ones that they can really resonate with because they haven't done anything to work on their soul senses, how they use their mind, what they think about, because it's things that are unpleasant or unappealing to the person that they're trying to present themselves as, right? But anyway, so meditating means to focus. Your selective attention. And I was like, ooh, that's pretty powerful. Your selective attention. You choose what you focus on, right? And that's also something that we say in the spiritual community, like, hey, where your focus goes, your energy goes as well, right? And it's proper to focus on different things at different times because you don't want to be everywhere. And some people say, it's like, you never lose your focus. Just be aware of that. You never lose your focus. It just shifts, okay? So if you put your focus on this, you can't simultaneously be focused on that. That's something that these people haven't figured out either from the past. It's like, no, if this person is focused and meditating on their person, you're not going to get them to change it up. Number one, because you're still operating out of those four senses in a way that's unappealing, and they haven't even dove deep enough within themselves to understand anything beyond that, okay? So if you put your focus on this, you can't simultaneously be focused on other things. That's why meditation is important. So I don't know. That's just as far as I got with that. So those were the things about the senses. So I guess we're getting now into loud and wrong. So that may be what comes out in the cards next. These weak, dogmatic people who tried to lay down the law as though it was incontrovertibly true. So it couldn't, be, but they were loud and wrong. And that's the biggest part of their problem. Like why their falls are so great. It's because they went out there spreading so many seeds. Now that the time to harvest is coming, people are like, well, wait a minute. I thought you said, but that's not what we see. And then some people may even come into your presence again. I know this happened recently with me. I was going somewhere and the lady that used to do my brows, she saw me and she was like, oh, Tasha. And I was like, hey. She's no longer important to me because she damaged that, and she still got the same feeling from me, which I think set with her whole ride home. Maybe it did, but it probably did, because that's like, if you captivate a room before you even get there and people are, of course, someone sees you that wronged you, they're going to ride with that and be like, damn, you know what I mean? So nonetheless, loud and wrong, I guess, is what's coming out now. So now let's talk about loud and wrong, I guess. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So people are seeing that change because of all the inner work that you did. So that Hermit card is still very strong out here. So people are coming across that change within themselves, even saying, oh my gosh, how could I have been this wrong? Some people may even be like caught, in their own like place, stuck in their own place of like just that realization process of like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Maybe even remembering the things that were communicated to them from other people that are now coming back to them that they feel guilty about. It's like, oh my gosh, I remember that. How could I have been so stupid? Oh my. So if someone runs across you or runs past you, or, comes in, sees you on their feed or something like that, what's going to happen? It's going to trigger that. It's going to trigger that memory reflex. And they're going to start to, take account of what they met in you and what was loud and wrong. Some of these people may even want to come with an apology, but it's what I understand at this point is the apology is not even needed. Like, you don't need an apology. You know, it's not, again, that's a codependent thing. Yeah, you know, all you need is love. You got it. And love is all you need. That's really what's coming into play now. It's like you've realized that too. You're like, yeah, I don't need an apology. You know, I don't need you to love me. You know, I need what I've been manifesting, what I've been looking for, what I've been, you know, soul searching for. I need all of those things to come into fruition, which you are seeing, you know, right around you, like every time. You know, I think maybe there's only this, yeah, look, I can't even get anything in opposition of what I'm telling you, just simply because it's true. Look at that. This is coming down out with the will, this change in this cycle of the things that bring you the most happiness. You're learning to understand that, like, oh no, I need to make myself happy first, which may have been a bit of a struggle because you were used to making sure that people felt love from you, and that's no longer your responsibility. Maybe you sat in this Queen of Cups energy for a long time. All right, what are we loud and wrong here? Wow. This is kind of interesting. Don't say I didn't try to tell you. Wow, yeah. So, look at here. So, the 8 is a change, which we've kept seeing in the Wheel of Fortune, right? Card coming out. Now we're seeing a change in the emotions. And look who gets to come out. But everybody else is still stuck in there. You see that? There's only one that's been released, you know? And again, that falls back in line with what I was saying about how, like, you only need one person. You only need one person to match your fly, because having multiple people, nobody could, right? You were pulling a piece from this person and a piece from that person and a piece from this person to try to seem like you had one, but it was never one. It was multiple, right? And that's fine, because those were a part of the process for you to learn the lessons, right? I feel like it's like this big full circle, you know, this whole 360 thing. Yeah. So that's what's being balanced out here. Yeah. This, you know, unappealing energy. Not necessarily like just because you're getting rid of a bunch of people that you found unappealing, but you've also gotten rid of the things that you found unappealing about yourself. It wasn't to impress somebody. It wasn't to afford someone. It wasn't to do this. It was to encompass everything that it is that you wanted so that you could attract it. I don't even know who said that. Look, that's really what's happening right now. Yeah, that balance in this 10 of Cups. Well, let's see what's here in this 10 of Cups, since she just wants to be out so much. It's almost like you're sitting on your pile of trash, and in that pile of trash, you've amassed, like, so on top of, look, this is a pile of trash. On top of this pile of trash that was your former way of living, no one cares, like, as far as divine people, no one cares about the past. That also came up. That's been a download, but it was something that I'm supposed to communicate to someone else, but I guess I'm supposed to share it to here too. So there was someone that was in, let's just call this person my manager. So I had a manager, and it's like we could choose, let's say we could choose whose team we got to be on to be managed by this person. And I influenced 2 other people to come and be with that manager. Now that manager had, like, let's say some health illnesses, like had a heart attack or something like that. And one of the people that I brought with me to be on this person's team came back to me one day with a little bit of gossip. Okay, let me tell you what I do with gossip. Snip it and forget it, because your experience is not my experience. And if they overcame whatever it is, you know, it's like, it's kind of neither here nor there. You know, I take people at face value. But the piece of gossip was that, oh, this person had that heart attack and had all these illnesses because they used to snort a lot of coke. They were doing a lot of lines. And that's where the rumor was around. I never spread that. I never said that to anybody. I just was like, in that conversation too, I was just kind of like, okay, like, what am, and, you know, it's like, Tell me if he doing it today. Don't come to me with something about something somebody did back then, because we don't know what's changed. Maybe those health issues is what changed this person's perception on the way that they were living their life. Okay? Some people, it's like a health scare. Like, oh, okay, I might have contracted something. Like, let's say you slept with somebody and, the condom broke, and 3 weeks later, some friend of yours is like, oh yeah, you slept with so-and-so. I heard he had such and such, and you got spooked, right? You learned your lesson in that moment, right? So that's what I'm saying too, is like, that's kind of being revealed as well. So again, sitting on top of that trash looking pretty, you know what I mean? Because you own it. You own who you are. You owned your past. You look at yourself and you could see who you were back there, right? So there's no reason for you to worry about someone not accepting who you are, right? And I actually worked with this manager, and that's where I made my first 6 figures. Okay, which is, if you've ever made 6 figures, or you've gotten to a mass of a certain amount of, wealth that you wanted, you're like, yeah, it's a good feeling, to accomplish. And to think I accomplished that with someone that someone else was trying to deter me from looking at it in a positive way. I feel like I wouldn't have amassed that if I started looking, because my focus would have been on what this person's past was and what this person did in the past versus what is this person offering me in this moment. In this moment, which is more of a Buddhist way of looking at things, not true or false or right or wrong, bad or good, but what's right now. And right in that moment, he was a great person. He was a great motivator. He was a great manager. He was a great person to just, people out in the community. It possibly could have been because of the lines, but look at what happens when you take ownership of your own trash. You know what I mean? You get to balance all of these cups of wonderfulness, a lot of cups of like good emotions, good feelings, good moments in his life started to, flourish. He became, and created things for other people, right? A good team to be on, to get other people, to level up. You see what I'm saying? So don't think that you're not right for who you want, because you know what work you've done. You know what's in your past. I don't know why this keeps coming up. It's going back to that nosy part because I never finished that. Okay, so I was being really super nosy, and I was trying to find out. I become like a super sleuth. Like, I used to do private investigations when I was younger. In my early career in corporate America, that's what I did. I led a whole team of people who we tracked down, people that were delinquent on their loans. And the way we did it was we would find their cousin or somebody like that, or look and see who they had the utilities names in, and then where that person moved to. It was like one of those sleuth things. I know you're saying, what does this have to do with your divine masculine? So you can kind of find things that are like maybe unsavory about people that you wouldn't want to know. Like, for some people, it could be that they used to snort lines, right? They used to, have escorts. They used, they have, some corn out there on the internet. And essentially that's what I found. I found my person's corn. But in that moment, it made me feel like, oh, he's human. It wasn't, it kind of almost can, like, sometimes those things can, I'm not going to say dehumanize, because it didn't dehumanize them. It made him human as well. So it made me comfortable in the fact that we've all made mistakes. And it helped me to get to the point to where I needed. Seeing his trash, so to speak, helped me to be able to sit on top of mine as well. So that's what I mean when, like, you connect like that. And this was in that moment when, way back in 2022, like that, we were really connecting, for the first time, because I realized who I was manifesting. Again, that balance is really strong out here. Wow. And that made me something that your capability to actually, it's hot in here, your capability to actually acknowledge that, or know that, or feel that, or be that, is what is helping others too. That's what I'm getting from the World card. Like, wholeheartedly, I'm getting that this is something that's helping other people to be able to see themselves in the same way. Like, oh yeah, me partying doesn't end me as long as I'm able to stop it. And you don't want to get sat down, but more often than not, that's typically what happens. There are things that occur that take you through this process of re-examining who you are. It's called shadow work. Ooh. So maybe that's what's being illuminated now too. Maybe that's like this great balance. Like that's what people are seeing and acknowledging, like, no, this person really is like genuinely balanced. Like this person has always been, you know, even if it's like, so people may like to say, oh, this person leads a double life, or this person, you know, used to, you know, snort coke, or this person used to, you know, call escorts or whatever. Used to, past tense, you know. Don't let that hold you back. You know, if you used to be an evil person, don't let that hold you back from becoming a great person. Because it's not going to be by defeating someone else. It's going to be by defeating your old self. That's what a lot of people don't tend to realize. That's where they get confused. And maybe that's what other people are seeing, like that these people are really confused because they're not seeing that for themselves. Like, again, loud and wrong. It's kind of like the energy of like, go sit down somewhere. Go sit down. You know, that's maybe what energetically people are thinking about these past people as well. Like, yeah, they're like, look, you confused and conflicted. You have issues. You know, there's stuff that you need to address, and it has nothing to do with the collective. It has nothing to do with the collective at all. It's your own confusion about who you are, where you stand, and why you're not seeing things come to fruition like you would like them. It's because they're operating out of those four senses, because that's all they can do. Because you can't, again, you can't manifest for someone else. So if you think you're sitting there meditating on something that's supposed to happen for someone else, that's not their focus, which is also why the collective, if you haven't yet, you have to remain focused on your stuff. Again, where your energy goes, you know, where your mind goes and what you put your focus on, it becomes, you know. So don't put your focus on watching readings that talk about the negativity. Or if you can't do that, make sure that you have more on the positive end than you do, so that if they don't, you know, that one doesn't outweigh the other. Because if you're focusing on what people are doing to you, or trying to do to you, we should say, or trying to manifest for you in your life, then that's where you will be. If you keep focusing on the past that people want to bring up, you know, the past that people want to, you know, talk about in, you know, in secrecy, or put out, you know, like, oh, I remember when so-and-so was doing such and such. Okay, and well, so-and-so was really rude to me about this. Okay, and in that moment, that's what they needed to be to feel confident in themselves. But are they that person today? Can you even contact them? Oh, that's why this is coming up. So, I had a Facebook. I kind of shut down most of my social media, except for my Fancy Granola Goddess on Instagram. That's the only social media I have. I don't have any other social media pages. I had a Facebook, but I felt like people were always constantly like checking in on me. And I was right. People that have no business. There was an ex of mine that had a lot of baby mamas, and we went on a vacation, and he proposed to me there, but as soon as we got home, like the little gnats got in his ear or whatever, and you know, that was over. But I had always wondered who the other people were that were looking at my posts, because some days it'd be 2 and some days it'd be 22, and it'd be like, who are all these other people that clearly aren't on my friends list but are tapping into my story? I always was hoping Facebook would reveal this, and it did. So randomly, I'm just on Facebook maybe a few weeks ago or something, and I'm looking through, and it shows me my ex's baby mama. And I'm like, why is she on my page, in my stories? This relationship has like been dead and gone. I don't think about this person. I don't, you know, there's nothing like as there is with all of my other exes, because I learned my lessons. And once you learn your lesson, it's like the person, nothing about that becomes attractive except for what your takeaway, right? All right. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, why is she in my stories? Now, we all know when you go on Facebook, even if you look at the person's page, it doesn't show up on their stories. They have to click in to your stories to see it. But I guess she didn't know that Facebook was calling people out because she's in my stories. And I'm like, oh. So I messaged her. I was like, what are you doing in my stories? And she was like, oh, I just got access back to this page, and I looked, because you know how you go and search people. She was like, I looked in my search bar and your name was there, so I clicked on it. I was like, no, you had to do a couple more clicks to actually be in my stories. So stop playing. I was like, I wasn't rude about it. It was funny to me. It was so funny because it was like, I always knew, like with me, like if I'm looking up somebody, it's because I'm dealing with the person that if once I'm done with you, I don't want nothing to do with you or whoever else you involved with, because it's not my business, right? So that should suffice why I was looking up my divine masculine. But now what I've noticed too is like people will come up, you know how people come up in your like For You or whatever they call that page. And that's how I've been able to see what's happening between my divine masculine, because I'm not being nosy. Like that's just not my energy. But for some reason it'll just be a random broad, and it used to happen with all the other people that I would deal with too, but I didn't know why. And it's not necessarily that they were looking at my page, because that comes up differently, but people that I've never seen before in my life, living in totally different states, cities, countries, whatever, will come up into my feed because they are connected to my person. It's that whole attraction thing. And that's how I've been able to see, like, oh, is my person still out here liking people's photos and videos, etc. And that was something that I had to work on. So that may have been something that you have recently encountered too. Like, wait a minute, check your feelings real quick, because don't you like people's photos too? Don't you think that some people are genuinely attractive? Not saying that you want to go, lay down with them. Not saying that you want to, take them out on a date. But don't you isn't it okay to find people genuinely? Isn't it okay that Boris Kodjoe is attractive? Isn't it okay that Halle Berry is attractive? You would like, and it's almost kind of like you have to equate it to that. Like, okay, and come to a certain understanding and like check yourself. Which happened for me recently, because I was like, wait a minute, why is he liking all her photos? But it was just kind of like one of those moments like, oh, okay. But it's happened several times to me, so I know that those people come into my energy, and I don't even be thinking about them because I don't know them. A lot of the times it's like, I don't even know who this is, but something will say, click on it though, click and see who it is. And then I'll click and see who it is, and it's like, oh. Sometimes the exposure is for me to get back into a feeling from something that happened in a past relationship that I need to heal or work on. Okay. Sometimes it's just so I can maybe set myself straight. All right. So that may be significant to you. What way is I going into the big laptop for? Because it wasn't any more of these notes. Oh, that's what I was doing. I was looking at like, girl. So she's like, oh, because I messaged her. That's another thing too. Somebody called me thinking that they had my number. And that's how you know God is going to block anyone that's not for you. Okay. It's like people thinking that they're going to come back into your life. And it's like, no, you're going to get blocked before you could even try, like they say, your car going to break down before you try to drive over to Divine Feminine's house. Or, because you don't belong over at her house. Well, I guess maybe because I posted like, hey, text me to get your reading. It goes to a Google Voice phone number, some phone that I'm not sitting at, I'm not waiting. And somebody called me from a blocked number on there. And I was just kind of like, and that was just last week. And I was just kind of like, who would call me from a blocked number? That just makes no sense unless you didn't want. And that's also why you won't get through. So people thinking that they're going to get through and they're going to get in contact with you. The mind of an idiot, right? So she's like, I was like, why on earth are you in my stories? This is hilarious to say the least. Consider me amused. And she was like, honestly, I just got that page back. And when I looked into my recents, I clicked you. And I said, nah, that's not how stories work. You have to go to my page and then click on my story, because we've never been friends, nor have we followed one another. And I assure you that you blocked my page, because this is like some business page that she created. Because like back then she blocked me even though she was stalking me. And it's like, you still stalking me? I'm amused. And I'm amused. It's like everything was real. That if you've been on my Fancy Granola Instagram, that's part of my stuff there. Like I identify as amused. Okay. But anyway, and I was like, no, that's not how it works. I was like, we've never been friends or followed each other. And I assure you that you blocked my page, like back when I was dealing with her baby daddy, who was outwardly my boyfriend. It wasn't like it was a secret or it was like a third party or whatever, even though she might have wanted to be. But anyway. And I was like, I haven't thought about you to even look up your business page. So like you went out of your way to find me, which is crazy to me. And so I was like, tell the truth or I'm going to tell, my ex. And I was like, I think he would want to know. I did not want to have a conversation with him, but I thought that that was funny that I could kind of pull that out. Because if I did call this guy or reach out to him, he'd totally be excited. Like, oh, okay. Like, he'd be totally into it, but I don't even have time for that. She was like, I know, I looked at my recent searches and you were there and I clicked it. And I was like, but then you went even further to look at the stories? I was like, you act like I just got a Facebook. Like, I don't know how this works. Like, if you, like, for me, like, if I go in my search bar and it's somebody I don't want to be bothered with, I just delete it. I don't go and click their page and go look at them. I'm amused, baby. I'm amused. I get it. I said, you did quite a few clicks. She's like, yeah, I did. I clicked in your name and I viewed your story. And I was like, why? Because again, if I've left somebody alone and I go in my search bar and their name is there or somebody connected to them is there, I'm deleting that from my search bar because I don't want it in my nothing, let alone my search bar. And so I was like, why? I was like, we're just going to call it my ex. My ex got your head messed up or something? Because that's what he does. He plays games, right? I was like, you need help with something? I was like why? Like, are you trying to figure out like how I let go and how I, let go of him and all of that? All of that meaning the drama that she's clearly still involved in. And she was like, not at all. I just clicked it. Yeah, there was more there. I was like, so you're still curious about me after all these years? I didn't even date her. I was like, so you're still curious about me after all these years? Again, I'm amused at this point. I'm sitting over here laughing and giggling. I was like, that's cute. I'm flattered. Enjoy. She was like, honestly, it was a mistake. Have a good night. Won't do that again. I'll block that account. I started cracking up laughing. You gonna block me, the person you've been stalking? Girl, bye. So I don't know who it was calling from a blocked number, but it was probably somebody that saw something here on YouTube. So just know, you try to contact me, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. Unless you call it for a reading, and you shouldn't be, unless you're calling to hear the truth, right, about the matter. You shouldn't be calling. So I don't know, I don't know. And again, I know that there's this feeling like some people are worried about, their exes coming in to start drama. It's going to get stopped before it can start. Like, that's the truth about the situation. It's going to get stopped before it can start. She wanted to be in my stories and be nosy and then probably run back to old dude and be like, I saw your ex there. I saw, so-and-so. I saw Fancy and blah, 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 blah. And like run her chops, right? And she got caught in the act. That's literally what's happening with these people. Somebody trying to call me and block their numbers to get me to talk to them. Why are you blocking your number if you're calling me? You called my phone and you're blocking it. You must already know that I don't want to talk to you. You see what I'm saying? It's that type of thing here. I guess because a lot of the truth has been revealed, people are probably seeing you like someone really taking charge and yeah, this Knight of Swords energy. And that's what's really burdening them. People are seeing like, I guess everybody thought you were going to be singing a Leanne Rimes song. Like, how can I live without you? Yeah, just fine, mofos. Just fine. That's the truth of the matter. I'm going to go ahead and take these because they came out. Yep. So essentially, this is where they're finding themselves. Oh, this is too funny. Oh, this is too funny. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This just sums up everything I just said, literally in the same exact cards. And then at the end of it, it's like the truth there. I'm gonna just go ahead and put that one out here. So it's like the Five of Wands. So essentially, these people are attempting to captivate a moment where they can be intrusive, where they can be burdensome, where they can be awkward, if nothing less. Or that they can be snoopy just to kind of go back and do something else with the info, or, check out your hairstyle. I don't know what the hell that broad was up to, but she shouldn't have been up to it because she got caught. heart. And why on earth anybody would call me with a blocked number? My divine masculine should know better. He should want me to have his phone number. And that's how I know it wasn't my divine masculine. Okay. Because why would you call somebody that you're interested in his phone number? You're calling someone, with your phone number blocked. You're calling someone with a blocked number because you know they don't want to talk to you. And you don't want this person, the person that you're calling with the blocked number, to have proof that you called them. Don't be playing on my Google Voice phone. Oh, this is funny. Yeah. So essentially it was like the attempts to kind of come up in arms and like be all outrageous, outlandish, loud and wrong. That they're seeing themselves now. They're seeing what they're attached to. She probably sat for a minute because I think I didn't see the last message that she sent until like the next day or some days later, because I don't check the Google Voice unless I put out a post to message me about readings. But she sent that, but I was already asleep by the time she responded to that. I was like, enjoy. Toodles. So essentially what's happened now is when you got let out, that got them in, basically. Is wow. Because there's more than just one person attached to this devil here. Because it's coming out right out of the Eight of Cups. So when you let yourself free, when you finally said, okay, I'm going to grow, I'm going to blossom, I'm going to blah, 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 blah. These people got more entrapped in their five senses energy. Like, what you mean you don't want me? Or what do you mean you're not going to, sleep with me? Or whatever it is. They got more trapped in their own, demonic energy, if you will. Look at all of those things down there at the bottom. Look at that. It's getting hard. Oh, wow. This is amazing. So these people, basically, the devil has a hold of their inner child. Look at that. That's a baby in there. That's a baby in there. The devil has a hold of their inner child. And again, that's what shadow work is. It's, combating your own demons, the things that live within you that are difficult for you to, repair because you work out of those five senses. Or you're using them in a way that's unappealing. You're using your phone to call me from a block number. And essentially it's like nothing, it can't compare. Like, so what you received when you let yourself free and what you know is coming to you, what you've been attracting, what you see, attracting itself to you. Even like I said, the stuff on the Instagram, it's like, oh, wait a minute. I don't know this person. Click it. Go see. It's like, okay. And you're, you being accepting of whatever it is that comes your way. Like, do we want to see our person out there liking other people's photos in a healthy relationship? Yes. Not every thirst trap, though. No. So that may be something that you or your person are coming to terms with. Like, it may be like, oh, I'm always clicking on thirst traps. Or it may be like, oh, I look like, something I don't want to look like because I'm clicking on the thirst traps. Or, I'm seeing what I need to see to check myself on my own energy, right? At the end of the day, that's really the only person that you can control is yourself. And that's what this is all about. That's what shadow work is about, is controlling your own self on how you think, how you act, how you speak. Not saying, you can't speak Ebonics. Remember they told us we had a whole different language? Now everybody uses Ebonics. But anyway, that's a story for a different day. But basically, they can't compare. Again, that's also coming up with like when your person does look at somebody, even if they find this person like physically attractive or they find them mentally stimulating. Because a lot of divine beings like to be able to have intellectual conversations. I call myself a conversation enthusiast. Some people may say I'm chatty. I'm a conversation enthusiast. Because you're not going to get me to talk about just anything. That's the thing. It's different. But anyway. The offers don't compare, so they know they can't give them. That's why they're stopped before they even can give them. Phone call can't even come in. No matter how much they want to switch places, it's like you can't come to fill 10 cups with one. No. Even if you see the collective sitting in the 9 of cups. Yeah, that's what they've been up to. And essentially, they know it's the truth. They know that you are authentic. You own whatever corn you engaged in that somebody Snoopy found out about. The times that you were, yelling and screaming and hollering at your kids, and you've worked on that, and about those times when I don't know, like you dug in your nose. I don't know, because for some people it could be that small. Like sometimes when you're on your spiritual journey, like you're so pure that it's like, I literally just dug in my nose. What's the big deal? But anyway, so basically just at the end of the day, they know it's the truth. There's nothing that can, they went through all of that. They were so loud about who you were, not realizing that whole time while they was out here spreading the rumors, while they was out here bringing you spiritual battles, while they was out here, doing whatever to try to make you feel some type of way, that whole time you were in the right position to get exactly where you needed to be. And they have no other choice but to face that truth, because they want to be here too. They want to be sitting on top of all of their trash too. Like quiet as is kept. They know they were loud and wrong. And that's really the only problem that they have at this point, is that they told so many people so much. They wanted to make you look so bad, so badly. Now they look so bad because they told so many people wrong information, things that were not true. And the whole time you just out here getting better. Bringing up, oh yeah, when we were together, so-and-so did this. That's y'all relationship when y'all were together back then. Just like old Missy girl messaging me and all up in my stories. I don't want your man. She posted that once too, and that's what's so funny. She was like, I don't want your man, but I got it like that, because she was still cheating with him, making it a third party situation. And you see why I left that relationship. And now the broad is still stalking me. And this is like eons ago. Eons ago, okay? Like too far back to, it's not like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. This is like, I don't even remember, but it was 2019. This is like 5-6 years ago. And she's still obsessed with me. Thank you very much. It all cracks me up. So don't be surprised. Don't worry about people trying to be intrusive. Don't focus on it, because that means you're meditating on that, right? You don't meditate on idiots. We laugh. We consider this kind of stuff, like whatever they be doing, I consider it a joke. Whenever I hear about like something happening, like recently, like, and I use all of my senses to understand what my guides are trying to show me. Like the other day, I got this energy of somebody was sending out spell work to like, wanted to cut me off at the ankles, right? And I thought it was funny, because I consider it a big joke. It's like, oh, okay. If I dwell on it and start to dig into it, that's when it starts to become a part of me, okay? Then the next thing that I felt was somebody wanted me to booby trap me. And all I could understand was that, how like in the movies where there's this cord and it trips you up, someone was sending out that type of energy to me, right? And it was so funny, because it's like, well, if he cut me off at the ankles, you can't trip me up. So it's like another, like, it was just such a joke. It was so hilarious to me, because this is the way that like I get a lot of my messages, and I understand what other people are doing. And it's like, it was funny to me, because like they really are messing each other up, and they're all trying to get after the same thing that they're not going to accomplish, essentially, because they're working against each other all day. Look, Two of Swords, right? We chopped off her feet at the ankles, so now I can't trip her up. Which it never happened, right? Oh, goodness. There may, essentially just stay stuck to your person. That's where you need to be. That's where you are, and, make the effort in any way, shape, or form, whether it means like trying out Birkenstocks, but do not wear Crocs, because they're made out of really very, very toxic material. I knew there was a reason. I know this is so off topic. Conversation enthusiast. I never liked Crocs. If you wear Crocs, I'm sorry. Essentially, so whatever you put on your feet goes directly into your bloodstream. And these shoes are made out of toxic material, and those other weird looking shoes. And my son and I always have this running joke, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna buy you a pair of Crocs. And it's only because I think they were so ugly. Like, I never knew that they were toxic material. Like, I hadn't confirmed they were really bad, but that's my intuition. Like, Birkenstocks only. So maybe somebody needs to put on those Birkenstocks and get it moving. Like, real talk. I don't know. But that's what I'm getting here, essentially. Don't even let it get to your feet. Like, don't even let it get near you. Don't take it in. basically. I hope that this has been helpful and insightful in some way, shape, or form, and I'll catch you on the next one. Later.